Imagine opening an old wooden barn that hasn't been touched for decades, dust floating in the air, the smell of rust and hay everywhere. And right there, under torn covers, you see the unmistakable shape of a Ferrari. And next to it, a Lamborghini, not replicas, not toys, real supercars forgotten, abandoned, left to die. What you're about to hear is not just a rebuild story, it's a resurrection. And once you hear how these machines were found, you'll understand why this might be the most emotional barn find rebuild ever. Before we go any further, if you love abandoned supercars, rare discoveries, and insane rebuild stories like this, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe to Adil Ramzan right now. It really helps the channel grow, and it tells YouTube that you want more stories like this. Trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next. This story starts far away from flashy showrooms and bright city lights. It begins in a quiet countryside area where time seems frozen. An old barn stood there for years, slowly collapsing, with broken doors and a roof that barely held together. Locals passed by it every day, never thinking twice. To them, it was just another abandoned structure. But inside that barn was a secret that would make any car lover's heart race. The owner of the property was an elderly man who had recently passed away. When his family decided to clean the land, they opened the barn for the first time in over 30 years. At first, all they saw was darkness and dust. But as sunlight hit the interior, the curves of two low, wide cars slowly appeared. One red, one yellow, covered in dirt, bird droppings, and rust, but still powerful, even in silence. The red car was a Ferrari, an older model from the golden era, the kind that collectors dream about. The yellow one was a Lamborghini, aggressive lines still visible despite the damage. These cars were not cheap mistakes, they were once symbols of success, speed, and passion. So the big question was, how did they end up here? According to old documents and stories from neighbors, the owner was a wealthy businessman in the 1980s. He loved cars. Not just any cars, but the fastest and most exotic machines money could buy. At one point, he owned several supercars. But life changed. Financial trouble, health issues, and personal loss slowly pulled him away from his passion. The cars were parked in the barn temporarily, and temporary turned into forever. Years passed, seasons changed, rain leaked through the roof. Animals made the barn their home. The Ferrari's paint faded, the Lamborghini's interior rotted, and rust slowly ate away at metal parts. Many people would look at these cars and see only scrap, but to the right eyes, they were still legends waiting to breathe again. That's when a small restoration team heard about the discovery. They weren't a big company, just passionate builders who believed every car has a soul. When they first saw the Ferrari and Lamborghini, they didn't see damage. They saw potential, they saw history, and they knew this rebuild would be one of the hardest challenges of their lives. The Ferrari was in worse condition than expected. The engine was seized. The wiring was destroyed. The interior smelled like mold and decay. Even opening the doors felt risky, but step by step, they began the process. Every bolt was carefully removed. Every part was labeled. This wasn't about speed, it was about respect. The Lamborghini had its own problems. The clutch was gone. The fuel system was completely clogged. The brakes were frozen solid. But surprisingly, the body was still mostly intact. Under all that dirt, the sharp Lamborghini design was still there, waiting to shine again. As weeks turned into months, the rebuild became emotional. Some original parts were impossible to find. Others cost insane amounts of money. There were moments when the team wanted to quit. But every time they thought about giving up, they remembered how these cars were once dreams on wheels. And dreams deserve a second chance. The Ferrari engine rebuild alone took weeks. Pistons were replaced. Valves were cleaned. The engine block was restored with extreme care. When the engine was finally ready for its first test, everyone held their breath. The key turned. Silence. Then suddenly, a deep roar echoed through the workshop. The Ferrari was alive again. The Lamborghini wasn't far behind. After rebuilding the fuel system and transmission, it was time for its first start. The sound was raw, loud, and emotional. Not perfect, but real. The kind of sound that gives you goosebumps. Paint restoration came next. The Ferrari returned to its iconic red, shining like it did decades ago. The Lamborghini's yellow looked aggressive and bold, just like it was meant to be. New interiors were installed, carefully matching the original designs. These cars were not being modernized, They were being reborn. When both cars finally rolled out of the workshop, it felt just months earlier, they were forgotten, rotting in a dark barn. Now, they looked ready to conquer the road again. The first drive was slow, careful, emotional. Every gear shift felt like a victory. This rebuild wasn't just about money or views. It was about honoring the past, about proving that even abandoned legends can rise again. And stories like this are exactly why car lovers around the world keep watching channels like Adil Ramzan, because it's not just about cars, it's about the stories behind them. If this story surprised you, or if you believe abandoned cars deserve a second life, let me know in the comments. Which car did you love more, the Ferrari or the Lamborghini? And if you know someone who loves barn-find stories, share this video with them. It really helps the channel, and it keeps these incredible stories alive.